I guess we're just waiting for it to start, so hang on, everybody.
Donna, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Smoke cigarette.
When is it gonna start?
When is it gonna start?
Y'all seriously need to be quiet or he's going to kick us all out. He has every right to do so.
Please mute yourself and we'll get started as soon as we can.
Mama. Is anyone else not seeing the cameras?
I'm also not seeing the cameras.
What part of mute yourself was unclear?
I guess we're not the only ones having technical difficulties.
I'm seeing y'all not being muted.
Mama.
thank you for all sticking with us while we're waiting quietly for the court to, start again. So thank you again for being here in the chat and waiting with us while the technology comes. Maybe something new is going to happen. So thanks. So y'all, while we're waiting, I'm gonna switch, and somebody will be watching to make sure we don't lose this. But while we're waiting, we're gonna listen one more time to the 911 call. So hang on while I put that up.
I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
We're taking a closer look at the case of Ruby Franke, the YouTuber mom now accused of child abuse. For the first time, we're hearing the chilling 911 call and emergency radio communications after Franke's son escaped from her business partner's home and was found emaciated with open wounds.
And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid.
That 911 call came in just before 11 a.m. on August 30th. A neighbor in Ivins, Utah, a remote area about 4 hours south of Salt Lake City, reported a 12-year-old boy showed up at his house asking for help.
911, the address of your emergency. Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help.
The caller then references problems at the neighbor's home before explaining the boy arrived looking emaciated with duct tape around his wrists and ankles.
We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Officials later determined the boy's mother is Ruby Franke, the YouTuber behind the 8 Passengers channel. Once boasting more than 2 million subscribers, the channel is now defunct after being terminated.
My gosh, you guys, having kids is so much fun.
On her YouTube channel, Franke documented the lives of her 6 children and husband, Kevin, recording videos about everything from home renovations to back-to-school shopping. But Franke's strict mothering tactics came under fire long before her arrest.
And my kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian, but I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done.
In the past, Franke had addressed critics, saying she wouldn't stop mothering her way.
Online who hate me, who would like to cancel me, who would like to see me either burn in hell, as I have told, or disappear off the face of the earth. And I'm not going anywhere.
But it was Franke's own son who requested 911 be called.
And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. This kid has obviously been, I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. We need the cops here as soon as possible.
First responder radio communications captured the moments after this 911 call came into dispatch.
Murphy said a 12-year-old male showed up with tape around his legs, thirsty, asking for help, said he was afraid, asking for police. Deborah, he gave the name of Russell Franke, unknown date of birth, or he did give us the date of birth, but I'm not showing any Russells in Stillman. I'll keep looking into that. The RP said he left through the porch of the neighbor's house.
First responders can then be heard discussing the boy's wounds, saying he has sores all over his body.
Does have duct tape around each ankle. He's not telling the RP why, and said that there's sores around his wrists and ankles. He's becoming, or correction, the RP is becoming emotional.
Then, for the first time, Ruby Franke is mentioned by name.
Sorry, the RP said that he left from a neighbor's, Jodi Hildebrandt. And Ivan's 54-year-old female. Not sure if they're related. When asking the RP's parents info, he said his mom is Ruby Franke, unknown where she lives.
First responders also mentioned Jodi Hildebrandt, whose home Franke's son escaped from. Franke and Hildebrandt have a past relationship, collaborating on parenting videos.
Do you have an address for that, Jodi? Tampa 8.
Anytime you think I want, fill in the blank, I don't care what it is, that is not love. Mm-hmm. Love is a gift that you offer because you have generated it inside yourself. And how do you generate love? Well, the only way to generate love is you use your agency to choose principles of truth.
First responders then mention the boy's siblings who are still back at the home.
He's also saying that there's 2 of his sisters are back at the home as well.
Officials say when they arrived to the scene, investigators went to a nearby home, finding other children in similar conditions. In all, 4 children were eventually taken to the Department of Child and Family Services.
10-4, 3 minutes, medical's in front of me.
Recordings capture officials arriving to the scene when they see the 12-year-old boy's condition firsthand.
Hey, 314, the wounds on his leg are pretty good. 12X511, 314, medical's gonna transport him, said that his wounds are in need of immediate care.
Next, there's some confusion as first responders ask for a Rose Franke rather than Ruby Franke.
Confirming Rose Franke.
But officials quickly realize it's Ruby Franke that they're looking for.
I don't have any Rose Frankies coming back in Stillman or in Utah. I did find a Ruby Franke, which I sent to 12X11, showing an address out of Springville. However, only involvement is a traffic offense a couple days ago.
Additional first responders again comment on the boy's condition.
12X11, 314 as well. The child looks very emaciated.
Officials then discuss the next steps, deciding the boy needs medical care.
Or you want medical to hold off to transport to the hospital?
We need to get some photographs first.
10-4, we're going to have him hold here.
Yeah, if he's alert and breathing, just hang out and wait for us, please.
According to a press release, the boy's condition was, quote, so severe that they were seen by the Santa Clara Ivans EMS and transported to a local hospital. Eventually, the conversation comes back to Franke and Hildebrandt over the radio.
After doing a little digging, it looks like that 27 I sent you for Ruby Franke is going to be the one that is associated with the Jodi Hildebrandt. They're both showing as therapists from Salt Lake and associated through social media as well.
Control 12X11, does she have an address in Springville?
Yeah, 10-4, she's showing up in Salt Lake per her Facebook. Her and Jodi both are therapists showing addresses up or locations for their work up in Salt Lake as well.
Copy, yeah. 10-4, that's going to be the mom. What's the address for that Jodi Hildebrandt?
Sorry, which address for Jodi?
Do you have an address for her in Kansas?
Yeah, 10-4, she's just a few streets up showing the address of.
At this point, first responders search Hildebrandt's home.
7 keyhole there, we're searching the house.
Both Franke and Hildebrandt were arrested on August 30th and charged with 2 counts of aggravated child abuse. Those charges have since been upgraded, and now they each face 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. If convicted, that means they could spend 15 years in prison and owe a $10,000 fine. Right now, both are being held in the Washington County Jail. Reporting for Law and Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Okay, guys, I just got some breaking news. And the breaking news is, let's stop sharing that. Let me get back to where I'm supposed to be. Okay. The breaking news is that they have postponed it and that Ruby is not showing up today. So they said that Ruby got a no hold up. Let me see. Bail hearing. Okay, wait just a minute. The bail hearing is September 21st on Jodi, but let me see. I don't think that's. And they said that I just read it in here. Ruby was wearing yellow stripes and Jodi was wearing pink stripes. Oh, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? Let's see if I'm in the right place, y'all. I'm on one screen and reading to another screen. If Trace, if you're on there and want to comment in any way, you can. But it looks like there was a waiving of the reading of the charges, and that she is remaining on a no bail hold. September 21st at 9:10 a.m. is the next hearing. So that's all. So we can talk about this anyways, because I think we need to talk about it. We may have to wait a while to get any kind of transcript or anything on it. But let's see here if I can put it in the chat. Now this is me. This is me speaking, Donna, even though it's going to say difficult research. So. And so it's a she, that would be Ruby. And so she's not getting out, y'all. And I'm going to put when the next, okay, I did put when the hearing is.
Donna, can you hear me?
Yes, Trace. Good. I'm glad you're there.
I just
So
can't see
what
the
do you
chat.
think? Okay. Well, that's okay.
Well, the first thought I had just now was like, so it says she's not going to appear. Is that what
Well, I did say that, but I may have read that wrong now because I think I may have read that in the chat rather than reading that and seeing that someplace reputable. And I think what they probably meant by it is
it's just not going to happen?
Yeah, today or whatever. I'm not sure about that. But it does look like they put it off to the 21st, and thank God they're not going to let her near those kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've just, and clearly the children, and I don't mean this in a bad way, y'all, but the children have been brainwashed by their mother and by these therapist people and stuff. And these are the only people they know, and these people have been their saviors, such as it was. So naturally, they are confused in the situation of, quote, being rescued.
Yes. Did you hear the little girl for like 4 hours wouldn't respond to the whoever, the police and the ambulance, EMTs or whatever that had been called, wouldn't talk to them, wouldn't, I'm sure they didn't try and force anything to traumatize her. I don't know if they kept her there inside. I just recall hearing that. Well, I should say I heard that.
Yeah.
That's
and
pretty significant. 4 hours,
this was just like a movie we saw, but I don't know if you remember whenever I'm trying to remember what that miniseries was about. Under the Banner of Heaven, the police detectives went to a fundamentalist type place of, people who were fundamentalist religious, and they got one of the little kids in the car to talk to them, and the little kids acted like they were being questioned by, Hitler or a communist dictator or something, just to talk to a policeman. They were scared to get any information at all.
Those little FLDS girls that were right here in Arizona in Flagstaff, if you see that videotape, they are taught to be, so sweet, keep sweet, all of that. But when law enforcement or any outside people, they are taught to be, they were kind of ruthless. You know what I mean? And not there was a couple little ones, and then there were some older ones, like, I don't know, 18, something like that. They were the ones that had really been coached on how to handle it. And pretty mean.
And I'm not judging that. It's one thing that they're, but these kids had duct tape around their legs and were still confused about who was going to help them.
Yeah. I think that's typical.
That is really something. And I'm, I don't want to go on and on about the duct tape, but for heaven's sakes, because we've we've kind of what all uses for duct tape people could have, in their houses and stuff. But never in my life have I ever thought about making handcuffs or Lord, I know that woman made a dress out of some damn duct tape, but for heaven's sakes, I mean,
Well, you must have to have quite a bit of duct tape to tape up kids. So I wouldn't think that, where they're just using something that they have on hand,
that's
like
true.
that was planned for.
Well, that's true because even like we were talking about using it for crafts. And I used to make Barbie furniture and stuff, and I would use that from the Dollar Tree duct tape that has pretty like leopard skin designs. It would make real pretty Barbie stuff. Anyway, it does. It takes quite a bit of it to do any project, even for a Barbie. God forbid if you were buying enough to wrap a real chair.
Yes, and I was telling you, nowadays they have that tape. It looks just like duct tape, but it's called gaff tape, I think. And I think that stuff could hurt kids. You know what I mean? It's so stronger than duct tape even. There's a lot of
like
abuse.
Pictures on the walls and heavy things on the wall.
Right.
I haven't seen that kind of tape before.
Yeah, it's hard to get off and get down too.
So I'm freaked out about it, but I think there should be, that all the people who have been going to the meetings with these ladies, and I'm just going to put out a call. If you've got a family member who has been going to this group, or they need to seek some help from another place because they're liable to hurt somebody.
Whenever I've seen like the people that withhold food, there is just like a whole different level of those people are on. I have a foster adopt child, and she was at a respite provider, and they had these 4 siblings, and they were all in the process of either still being fostered or being adopted by this family. And they were an extremist family. They were, I think, more of the Duggar type, setting. They were not LDS, but I remember the one day I showed up and one of the older girls was shaved bald. And I was like, what happened? And the excuse was that she had cut her younger sibling's hair and they shaved her bald. And I told that respirator, I said, you have got to call this in. This is a horrible sign. And I could just see it on the wall. They were still young, like under 10. And I was like, when these kids hit adolescence and have that rebellion, it's going to be bad. Well, a few years later, they went in and found those kids completely starved. That little girl was 68 pounds at 13. It was a big case. The foster adopted parents are all in prison. The second oldest little girl I just found out a year ago, she would be 17 at this point. She went to New York and killed her biological mom, the mom she had been taken away from. And I was just like, well, they obviously didn't get these kids any help, but it was all the same thing. It was the food withholding. A lot of times it ends up being like keeping them, they're not allowed to go to the bathroom, and then they're shamed for having accidents, all of that kind of stuff. I just see like this whole level that a lot of times is extra exercising. And sure enough, I saw that in one of Ruby's things where, kids having to drop and do push-ups. And I see all of that kind of going together. And it's just, I don't know, it's like this extremist view. And I've seen that for a lot of years too. Even like 20 years ago when I worked in a children's shelter, it was the same thing with the chopping of the hair, the food, the exercising. I don't know. It's like I just don't know how people get to that level.
Me either. It's just, I couldn't even think about not providing food to
And all
go ahead.
and all those kids, they end up thinking they are going to go to jail. I remember having this one little girl, and she was telling me that, she deserved what happened, and she was afraid of kid jail. And I'm like, "What are you talking about, kid jail?" And she goes, "Where kids go to jail?" And I said, "No." I said, "There's a detention center for like older kids." She was like 9. If they break the law, but you didn't break the law. And that little girl went around to every staff at the shelter. Is there really no thing as kids jail? And she went out and she was so furious as it started to sink into her the level that she had been manipulated, you know?
Hey, hey, y'all. Y'all have been doing great, by the way. Um, there's a few things that I wanted to say about, um, y'all have got to go watch the interview on Mormon Stories podcast of Jessie Hildebrandt, which is Jodi Hildebrandt's niece. And she endured a lot of abuse from Jodi. And they actually, towards the end of the interview, she does share where the prosecutor is opening her case back up. And I believe that's a telltale sign of what's to come. How the prosecution is building their case against Jodi and Ruby. Because she'll be able to corroborate, and in her interview, she was able to corroborate a lot of what we've learned about Ruby and Jodi's abuse on these children. To me, that's how I took it. Um,
That will
and I
help.
think it's
Yeah.
going to provide a lot of justice, a lot of healing, and especially for Jessie, whose abuse occurred a long time ago. She's around 30 years old now, but this was when she was like 14 or 15, and her parents just they went to go to her grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, uh whatever party celebration, and she was left there with Jodi. Her parents just left her. Like, just I can't imagine the level of feeling of abandonment and betrayal, and like, I don't know. I really uh, connected with Jessie on this, on her abuse. Like, it just, I don't know, it sent chills down my spine.
So Jodi
Um,
had these so Jodi had these tendencies even before she had kids.
this was after she had kids, but they had to have been young kids, because when Jessie,
Oh,
her
okay.
niece, was there, she was going through her divorce, and she shared what she knew about, you know, that time whenever Jodi had left her husband and they were getting a divorce. It was a very long, contentious divorce. It was, and she used these words: Jodi wanted to destroy her ex-husband financially, legally, tried to get his recommend removed from the church. Just, she wanted to destroy him. And we've heard destroy before. And I hate the content. I hate what we have to talk about, but I love when I find all these things that relate directly with the same things that we've heard from Lori and Chad. This isn't so isolated as we can see. I think this is opening up a lot of people's eyes to the to what's really going on. It's a lot of corruption, and it's a lot of self-preservation. There's something bigger here. Was I kicked out?
No. But I mean, when you have bishops that don't have to report abuse, what does that say? You know?
It tells me everything I need to know.
Right. A bishop should want to have to report abuse.
A bishop should be able to, it all goes back to Lori and Chad's case, in my opinion, because Rob Wood, the special prosecuting attorney for the Vallow-Daybell case, he was a bishop. He was serving as a bishop when those letters went out to bishops and stake presidents and stuff in that area, reminding them that they are not to involve themselves in any cases. And this came from the church, not to involve themselves in any cases and to report to the church first, basically. I mean, that's how I can sum it up. I find that so disturbing and so unethical and so against the law. And they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation who, let's just say, under the guise of religion, under the guise of holding, people's salvation, and I don't know how to word it. It's contingent. Everything is. I'm sorry. Let me shut my door. The damn fan is so loud and whooshy. It's distracting me, but it's just it's disturbing. It has always bothered me, and nobody really goes back or nobody really talks about it, And so I don't ever want to stop talking about it because I don't think it's right. And I mean, as much as I cannot stand what Chad and Lori have done, I can't stand what they've done. Uh, I still feel that if you have a good case and you have good evidence and you did good police work and you did all the things, then you don't have to play dirty. And if you will go and watch the interview, I think there's 2 now it's on Hidden True Crime of Adam Steed. That's the man that KJ read about the other day, where I mean, he lost his wife. Okay, he was a whistleblower for the Boy Scouts of America SA abuse claims. That was a huge payout just recently to the attorney for that. I've reached out to him and I need to go check. I hadn't seen where he's responded, but Tim Kosnoff is the attorney. And I was like, oh my God, I just need to talk to somebody who is not scared to go up against the church, And so he was the attorney for all the victims. Tim Kosnoff was, in the Boy Scouts of America. I want to say it was a class action law. Don't quote me, but yeah. And so, but so this whistleblower, Adam Steed, I feel, and this is just how I see it. Y'all got to go watch that interview or go listen to it. And it is absolutely jaw dropping to see how far a church going under the guise of a church, let's just say, posing as a church, is going to the lengths that they will go to shut people up, to shut victims up, and so to me, I see that as they are okay and on board with abuse. They are fine with it.
Don't they do lots of like private payouts and stuff to shut people up?
Say that again. I'm sorry, Jason was yelling.
Hasn't the church done a lot of private payouts to people to shut them up?
Yes, they make them sign non-disclosure. Oh, I'm sorry. Non-disclosure agreements is.
Trace, something's up with your mic. Maybe plug it. I mean,
okay, I thought it was
I don't know. No, I think it's something up with her mic.
That was doing that the other day.
Because it's been great all this other time. It's totally rocked.
Yeah.
Can you hear this?
It just sounds real grainy. If that's, I don't really know how to describe it, but that's close as I got.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead. Maybe I'll try and come back in.
Oh, DJ Norman says he never signed non-disclosure. Did you sue them? I just always thought that they were, because that's exactly how Tim Ballard's operation works. Anybody that works for them, they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which is good for some things, but not if you're like doing bad things on purpose. Why do I keep getting? Oh, it's Trace. Okay. um. Oh, no lawsuit. Hmm. S.L. Connolly says the argument that lost the new law was a fear people would stop talking to their bishops if they think they may get in trouble. I think that's. Let me let that register. The argument that lost the new law was a fear people would stop talking to their bishops if they.
See, I think that you know, if you went in to confess to the priest and you knew the priest was going to go straight down to the, you might not tell him anything or whatever.
But it
But
seems
I
like
mean,
it's being used more. Then why would the
let me
church
stop
want
out.
to
Let me
accept
just
that?
say, I'm just going to say exactly because it is not a sin. If they want to tell you sins all day long that you don't tell anybody, go ahead with it. But if a sin crosses into being against the law, brother, the
Mandatory.
priest, the bishop, all of them need to go down. And yes, it should be mandatory reporting for all of these people. And maybe that's something we should all ask our political people for, no matter who you
Yeah.
are. Ask them for mandatory reporting, and also to get rid of the what do you call it? Whatever that you too much time passes, because people
Statute of limitations.
the statute of limitations runs out for adults who finally get up the nerve to, you know, and I'm saying, get up the nerve. Everybody's got off your back. You're scared. Maybe you finally enough people have went to jail. You're not scared anymore, whatever. People should be able to tell it. So these are things that
Mhm.
everyone should agree on.
It's
Oh,
systemic too, because that's the fear mongering that we see in these end time religious institutions like Jehovah Witness, like the Mormons, like Scientologists, these televangelists and things, or yeah, things like that, where they use the fear of God. They use God and it's just it's gross. It's so gross for for man, anybody to do that, especially and use it on other people to get what they want. What's their end game? You know, it just and so Grammy BNNC says church leaders, family services, that church in Utah refers clients to Hildebrandt, and that is freaking absolutely infuriating to me. Right? Very much like clients were referred to Hamblin. Exactly. Totally not shocked. This is coming out of Springville area. And that investigator I talked to the other night, who's been working on the Hamblin case for 22 years now, he said that it's basically just these sex swinging, whatever, swingers, Mormon swingers. And, you know, it's not that they are, yes, they are. He corroborated the fact that I thought that this is how Mormon polygamy is continued, in my opinion. Maybe in the public, to the public, they present themselves one way, but behind closed doors, it's another way. And I mean, do what you do. Do whatever the hell you want to do. Just but I mean, in order for the church to even wait, how did this go? Okay, it was back whenever the state of Utah, it was like a territory or whatever. And in order to become a state and enter the statehood, they had to abandon their practice of polygamy. Okay. So they were like, okay, we did, you know, and then I know, hurry.
Okay, no.
He's such a he always grabs the lifesavers and they're individually wrapped, right? So anyways, um, I forget. See, I know my little attention span is not great. Distractions. But anyways, it's like how I see it is like they lied in order to become a part of the state to bleed the beast, so to speak. And to get a revenge, for all of us, anybody outside of the church, not ever recognizing Joseph Smith as their prophet, um, as and respecting them as a mainstream religion. And I mean, oh my God, extreme. That's an understatement. In my opinion, it's that I share it sometimes. I have it back here. Let's see, the oath of vengeance. If you listen to the words, you're like, oh my God, I'm trying to pull it up right now. I'm doing this from my cell phone. It's kind of working out okay. It's the blood oath vengeance. So listen to this.
Oath of vengeance, or blood vengeance, was an oath that members of the Mormon Church took as part of the endowment ceremony in the temple from 1845 to the early 1930s. In this oath, members of the church vowed that they would pray for God to enact vengeance on the United States to avenge the blood of Joseph and Hiram Smith, who were killed in 1844. In the temple, the officiator would say, "You and each of you do covenant and promise that you will pray and never cease to pray to Almighty God, to avenge the blood of the prophets upon this nation, and that you will teach the same to your children and to your children's children unto the third and fourth generation." President Brigham Young said, "Before the Nauvoo Temple was completed, Joseph was murdered at sunlight, under the protection of the most noble government that then existed, and that now exists on our earth. The souls of all such, since the days of Jesus, are under the altar, and are crying to God, day and night, for vengeance. And shall they cry in vain? God forbid. He has promised he will hear them in his own due time, and recompense a righteous reward." The blood vengeance oath was removed from the temple ceremony in the early 1930s.
Okay, so that's that. And then, okay, so I'm looking at, I'm trying to navigate through my phone here. It's a little bit different. And so this comment, Kathy Barella put, this reminds me of the other alarming and illegal and unethical thing that has come out that I've learned from all this too. The interview from Hidden True Crime of Adam Steed and the interview with Jodi Hildebrandt's niece, Jessie Hildebrandt. I highly recommend y'all go watch everything to do with that. But whenever I was listening to Jessie Hildebrandt's interview, she said that she did some of the billing for her aunt Jodi, right? And she remembers seeing that in the DSM-5, which is used to diagnose illnesses or whatever from professionals, right? There's a DSM-5, and there's only so many. Do I keep getting kicked out? I just keep seeing it. I don't know if my internet's doing well. Let me know if so. But
it makes a noise once in a while, but and sometimes we'll flip but I'm not sure why that's happening. I don't, but your sound is fine. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Okay, so oh yeah. Okay, so the billing, right? So what's happening is it's okay. The bishops are basically sending their clients, sending their members they're referring them to people like David Hamblin, which I mean, he's in jail right now. So, but I mean, he was a therapist, and they're sending them to people like Jodi Hildebrandt, right? She worked for the Lifestar Services, which is basically created for Mormons by Mormons for Mormons, that whole jib jab. Eh, and so they are telling the member, let's say this couple go into the bishop, and they talk about everything, basically, obviously, from what I've learned, which is freaking disturbing to me, because sometimes I think the bad bishops, the bad eggs, it's like they get off on this, and it's really disturbing. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that about all bishops. I'm just saying it seems to be whatever they're talking about, they're projecting. That's something I've learned a long time ago from dealing with Lori and Chad and everybody surrounding them, is that they project everything that they are doing or that they are concerned about is what they project onto their victims and everybody around them. And so when you look at it through that lens, it's easier to see how these things come to be. what someone's true intent is, especially at least with these people, But so the bishop is like, okay, well, you're struggling with sex addiction. You're addicted to sex. So you go see Jodi Hildebrandt. Okay. So the couple goes to Jodi Hildebrandt. She separates the couples and she puts the men with the men, the ladies with the ladies, and then she infiltrates. Okay. And um, I don't know if she's being used. I, I'm kind of leaning that way because I'm taking things from everywhere, like from all these cases, and they're really shaping up a much clearer picture as to what is going on, what went on, why JJ and Tylee were murdered, and what's all going into play with that. And I know it's so far-fetched. It really is. It goes with the rest of the story, though. When you have people talking about turning up the pain on children, and you have a boy who escapes his captor with duct tape, around his ankles, and he has been malnutritioned and starving and obviously, right? Apparently. So apparent, that you see it. Hey, I can hear you. Anyways, God, it's like having another kid sometimes, but um, I forget. I'm sorry. I need to go in my office, I guess. It's my fault. But oh, that makes me think that, or that reminds me that the boy was like it was his fault. But that if you go listen to Jesse Hildebrandt's interview, Jodi told Jesse all these disturbing things like Jesus, God loves me, he doesn't love you. Who does that sound like? Right? That's Lori telling that to her daughter-in-law, Kelsey. God loves you, but he loves me more, basically. That kind of rhetoric, and it's freaking disturbing. And so that's what and everything else on to their victims and not at all ever taking accountability. Ever. It's so weird. And it bothers me. And it's bothering y'all. And it's like everybody's starting to see how this is, you know, it's much bigger. That investigator I talked to a week ago, I've always felt like these cases, these people, I'll say these people have crossed contaminated, if you will. And it is strange that they come from Southern Utah. Chad was born in Provo, and him and Tammy, they lived in Springville, Utah. They mostly, for the most part, raised their kids there, their 5 kids. Then that voice told Chad in 2015 to move to Rexburg, so there you go, cross-pollination, cross-contaminant, whatever you wanna call it. And then all these cases like David Hamblin and David Levitt and, David Hamblin's wife, or ex-wife now, Rosie Hamblin, she goes by Stevenson now. She was just arrested. She's 70 years old. This is on, um, abuse claims, I wanna say that are by I wanna say Hamblin's daughters, but I'm not sure. But so don't quote me on that. But it's all this theirs are more old, though. And so the Hamblin case, the Levitt case, those are more older, I guess you could say, incidents or whatever. But that's not to say that they didn't continue. That's not to say here we are today because of Ruby, Franke, and Jodi Hildebrandt, who are, um, oh my God, they are the scum of the earth, right? And a lot of people are saying that Jodi is so the influence in this. She is, had she not crossed paths with Ruby, they don't think that Ruby would be here today. And that's kinda how we go back and forth with Lori and Chad. And, like who did what? Who influenced who? And really, at the end of the day, it's the church, in my opinion, that has influenced It's just the common denominator. You can't remove that, in all these cases. So when there's a whistleblower, you have David Nielsen, who was the whistleblower for the church, holding back all that money for 28 years, not reporting it to the stock exchange, commerce. And it was like $132 billion. Hello. And so there's that whistleblower, and you wonder, that whistleblower is putting their life on the line because these people are so petty. So they are okay with gaslighting. They're okay with manipulation. They are okay with shaming and people into, paying their tithing. Pay your 10% tithing, You got to be worthy. Uh you've got to earn your way into heaven. You've got to earn your way through everything to prove your worth, to not end up in outer darkness, which is their hell. It's not to be burning for eternity. It's to basically just be isolated for eternity. That's the worst you can do to a Mormon, is to shun them. You see what I'm saying? Like how that goes. It's just very it's very layered, and it's very relieving for these things, as horrible as they are. For them to come to the light is just such a breath of fresh air for me, because it's Billy and JJ's stories are coming to the surface, and they will. Darkness always comes to light. Always. It doesn't always do it in the time in which we want it to, but it will, and it does, and it has continuously. Seems to be in rapid succession, and I'm hoping everybody is able to see all this and kind of put these things together. Yeah, September 21st. Um, who's Chad Franke? Oh, the little boy. I'm like, who names their kid Chad? Never mind. I'd say that too, S.L. Connolly. I'd say she is a crazy bitch. She looks crazy. She sounds crazy. She is, if not, she is for sure. Um, she's a child abuser, allegedly, and or apparently, and she is a dictator. She is so a dictator, and nothing that she did on her family, blogger or vlogger channel, that she had 2.5 million subscribers. Okay. She is an exploitative biatch. And karma, what goes around comes around, uh, all day, every day. And I just hope it opens up the eyes of many others, survivors, victims, I hope they come forward with their stories. And, justice will be served for all these who are doing harm to our children, and for the institutions that protect them. Your day is coming, you know? Shame on you. Shame on you. Um, it's not all right. It will never be all right. You can't say one thing, you're protecting the children, and then suffer the little children, It's very disturbing on many levels. And I mean, kids can't talk for themselves, right? For the most part. We have to help their voices be heard, because if not, I really do think, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, and I can say this because, or people can say that I'm saying this because of what happened to Tylee and JJ. It was just Chad and Lori crazy. Okay, well, but there's a lot of things that enabled their crazy, that fed into their delusion, that we see as a delusion. To them, it's real world. This is how they view things. And that to me is some scary shit. It should scare the shit out of you. I've said it for a long time now. What about the rest of them? That's what is meant by that. What about the 2 by 2 that are being pumped out of this religious corporation that are pumping these people out who are acting like there was no murders that occurred here. There's no child abuse that occurred here. They weren't abused. They weren't murdered. You know, when you think about all those things, you're like, they are out of touch with reality, but that is their reality. That is what they're taught. It's brainwashing, and it's very sick. Normalizing abuse and being so bold as to film and monetize it, right? Follow the money, follow the profit. Profit. It's sad. And it just makes me think that those kids were on the chopping block. They were going to be sacrificed. That's just, you don't have to agree with me. That's just where I see that was going. Turning up the pain, turning up the torture, uh, pain and kids. Anybody who equates the two or associates the two, uh, they need to be on their own island somewhere, and they can just feed off one another and prey on one another. Yeah, it's so true. Follow the money. That's where it's at. That's when Lindsay Blake came out with money, power, and sex. That's what this case is about. And that applies to the entire world population, I mean, individually in my home, I could be all about money, power, and sex, right? That's gonna be my end game. That's my motive. That's what I want, right? So, we all have that capability, or that we all can have this mindset. Can you imagine if that's all that we wanted? But I'm just saying it applies to, like, everybody. Um It's very vague, basically, and so I can apply that to the church as well, and that's exactly how I see that. So I really think that oh, yeah, uh, yes. Sad part, the church controls the state. The DCFS, law, government, everything. Uh-huh. Amen. I think we see that. I feel that. Um, it's pretty gross. Everybody just assumes that there is a separation of church and state. I'm not political. I don't have a political bone in me. I don't even really understand the dynamics and who's who and who does what. I just look at and I analyze, like, all the people around Lori and Chad, all the people around Ruby and Jodi, all the people around David Hamblin and David Levitt. When you look at all these people, what is feeding into this? What is enabling these people, these predators, these abusers, these murderers? What what is it? Who's regulating them? Who's sanctioning them? What's going on here? There ain't a whistle loud enough. you know, um, it's very scary, and it is purge season, y'all. Today is the anniversary, I think, or it could be tomorrow, September 8th and 9th. This was Tylee's last moments. That baby girl. She was I've kind of put some things together, and it's just a theory, of course. Hey girl. Hey Carrie. I know 4 years sure have gone by fast, right? She should be turning 21, I believe, Tylee. And I mean, these were the last moments of her life on this earth, and I always am troubled by the last moments of Tylee and JJ and Charles and Tammy and Joe, and I mean, that very well could have been the outcome of Ruby Frankie's kids. And I mean, you just gotta take a step away from stand back from the project, and you just kinda try to look at it in um, a bigger view or whatever, a long view, or, you just try to take in all of things that you've heard from this case and that case and all these cases, and you try to figure out what's going on, what's the pattern, what keeps emerging, what keeps being repeated and said that are similar, and it's alarming to me. Um, I really couldn't sleep last night. I was freaking exhausted. And and because all these connections, and I know that I mingle the 2 together, and that's confusing for some people, but for those who have been along for, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell cases since the kids were missing, for those of you who have been around since then, you know, and, you know what's going on. I appreciate y'all for, coming along this horrible ride with us, and it's scary, and it's concerning, and there's nothing that can put and breathe life back into Tylee and JJ and Charles, Tammy, Joe, or any victims prior to their stories, nothing can breathe life back into them, but we can do what KJ has always said, and that's justice through understanding. And there's nothing wrong with us asking questions. There's nothing wrong with us, digging past the first layer. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about then, So that's how I look at it. And yeah, Charisse, it's a struggle for anyone not from here or outside of the outside of the church to understand. And a lot of people, myself, this is how I saw it before the church, came onto my map or whatever, my radar, was the only thing I knew about the Church of Jesus Christ was of Latter-day Saints was their commercials on Saturday mornings when I'd watch my cartoons. It was a commercial for compassion, pass it along, right? And I thought it was so neat, I just remember that. And and then the kids, Tylee and JJ, were missing, and then I just wanted, you hear cult, 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 and you're like, I was just trying to understand. And the more I've dug into it, the more I've learned, the more I've researched, and that's all I've done for the past 4 years, y'all, is research this daily and I try to look at it with a clean lens, just I have no biases, prior. I do now. I do now. I have my opinions, but um it's nothing different. Not meaning it's great. I'm not saying, "Hey, it's great." The Catholic Church does it. The Jehovah Witnesses do it. That doesn't justify it. That means they're all gross. Okay? That's how I see it. And it's really disgusting. It's sickening. And I'm sure, if this platform were to grow, and I'm sure I would be a threat as well. And I mean, it depends on who who's viewing that, I've been accused of trying to take the church down. I'm like, "Really? Me? By myself? Wow." Um, thank you, I guess. That's not my intention. My intention is just I want them to just stop. Um, stop allowing this to happen. Stop being an enabler. Stop doing whatever it is that's creating this. Uh, the church never puts a firm line, they never say nothing. It's very passive. And you have members who speak up for the church instead. And so to all the members, my advice or, I'm asking is just that you see something, say something out to people outside of the church. Okay? Because it's not working with the people inside of the church. All their, the 1-800 LDS helpline. I thought that was really cool till I peeled it back a layer. Now I was like, "Oh my God, this is being used so that they can intercept and they can navigate the proceedings, how it goes, where it goes, who it goes to, control, power. Okay. And that's so disturbing. It's so disturbing. How many cases have we not heard about? There's a bunch. Trace on the case had sent me, I want to say it was to the Boy Scouts of America, mainly, claims. And there's like 600 something different reports on there. And you're just like, oh my God, they're all the same. Different characters, different people, different victims, different perpetrators, same damn scenario, same story, different victims, different people, different lives. And it's that I'm just like, that's, you can't deny that. That is obviously a freaking problem. And if somebody never recognizes that there is a problem, that's a problem because they're never acknowledging it. They're too perfect. They're too egotistical. And there you go, and repeat. It is sickening, sad. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I've also spoken out since I was young. Good. And so your platform needs to be elevated so that you can be the voice, be another voice for these victims. That's my opinion. And then, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've spoke out since I was 15. It never gets easier. I just double down, right? Because it's like that is called resilience. And it's something that I seem to be equipped with also. And yeah, Trace says it must be a lot on you, Charisse. I appreciate you being vocal. I mean, and it's leading by example, right? That's perfect. It's like that's something I see that's not in the church is they talk about grace. They talk about all these wonderful things, right? But they don't do them. Not everybody. Please don't blanket my statements. But apply it where it goes. You're like, okay, they talk about it, but they never are really about it themselves. And so it's crazy. And yeah, so this reminded me right here of and I know it don't have anything to do with it, but hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. Those monkeys. And that's I don't know. I know there's not everybody wants or is interested in talking about that part of it. And so that's the tough part for me is trying to figure out where is the best place to talk about these types of issues publicly, but to the right audience so that I feel safe because it sounds so whack. It'll have to be to an audience that understands, that researches the side of it. And that's been the tough part for me because it's not for everybody. It's very disturbing. KJ said sometimes you feel like she's got to go take a shower after. And I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. It's disturbing on so many levels. But I can't not talk about it because it factors in here, you know? Me? I was raised Catholic, but I don't remember a damn thing from it. I know I never did adhere to a church, you know? Um, I never felt like I had to worship. Like, if anybody told me I had to worship the Pope, I'd be like, yeah, okay, no. Hard pass, you know? I'm not gonna worship any man, or you know what I mean? Uh, 'Cause they put their pants on the same way we do. Um, Burning Man got rained out. Let's count it as a victory. I asked Jason the other day, I was like, "What the hell is the Burning Man?" I don't even know. Hey, Fancy Nancy. Um, I really, I think oh yeah, slaps counter, right? Not doesn't count for me, right, Lori Vallow? It Look out, Lori. Here comes Ruby and Jodi.
It is.
Crazy.
Hey, Crash.
Mm-hmm.
This is really, it really is kind of taking some pieces and putting it in the puzzle so that we can, and it takes, you have to step back from it to see where they fit in.
Yeah, where they fall.
Yes, it's like going in and out
You
of
orbit. So
perspectives. Yes,
yeah.
yes, and it's just, and I'm like, and the whole thing about, what about the rest of them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, how many people were buying workbooks and doing this to their kids?
And then
I
before
mean,
that, with Lori and Chad, it was the preparing a people thing. It's like different elements, but there's therapists in all of these rings, these
oh
circles.
yes, oh yes,
Thomas
and
Harrison is Visions of Glory. Spencer, that is he's in the same circle as Tim Ballard and Lori and Chad. And then you have Jodi Hildebrandt here, and you have David Hamblin, who was a therapist who was, I mean, he's in jail without bond. So is his wife, his ex-wife. She's held without bond. It's like all the crazies coming out or something. I don't know.
and I think I told you this. If this is my personal experience with a therapist, and did I tell you about the weird therapist that, I mean, she wasn't weird, and it said right on the door, Christian psychological counseling or some such thing. But anyway, she seems to be a very nice lady, and really and truly, the only reason I went to her was to get my meds. So there you go.
I got you.
Anyway,
At least you're honest,
anyway, yeah. And so I
Mm.
was at the dinner table. I mean, had lunch with some of my friends one day, and they go, "Oh, did you read about this psychiatrist in town that was on the news because she was using a whip on her
Yeah,
clients?"
I
And I
remember you
looked,
telling
and it was my doctor. My
Can you
doctor. Now
believe that
she
that
never,
when you told me that, I was like, "What the frick?"
I mean, she lost her license over this, but I saw the whips on the wall, but she never used them or anything. And I told Crusher one time, she told me she made me weigh, which is an odd thing to do in
Yes. That
a
weigh
therapist
your
office.
her therapist made her weigh herself
Weigh.
on a scale. What the
And
hell?
then and shamed me about it, told me that I walk and should lose weight. Anyway, and then I felt like she was like, "And if you don't, something's gonna happen." And I was like, "What in the world is gonna happen?" But honest to God, I was scared. I'm pretty sure I lost weight before I went back, but
Well, but
but
you see what that did to you psychologically? Maybe,
yes.
Like,
Yes, but I'm
that's
sure a
scary
lot of people, I don't know what all happened over that, but I'm just saying how easy it is
for
for
these
those things for something totally inappropriate to play in.
professionals, right? They have a code of
Yes,
ethics that's
yeah,
higher.
under and got a big Christian sign on it.
Yeah,
That, I mean, you might as
that's
well
what
have like a label that
yeah,
means nothing,
it's
but you can buy it or something.
authoritative. Yeah, so they can shame you, and use your religion against you, basically, and guilt you into doing
Yes,
things. Guilt, it's manipulation. It's like, "Here, pay me your money, and then I'll tell you if you're good enough, to when you die, you'll go to whatever." You know?
yes,
It's the exploitation at its finest, if you think about it. They exploit corporate Jesus found, organizations, they use Jesus, they use the word of God or whatever. They use that against people, and that is exploitation. Like, it's to prey upon people and to trick them out, basically. It is so sad.
Well, I mean, even in Memphis, the college, of course, the colleges are one thing, but the College Christian Brothers is a Catholic university. But over a few blocks further is like Christian Brothers Automotive. So you get your See,
Mhm.
are all the mechanics like Christians? What's the deal over there? I think that's profiteering off of God's name to be trying to get
There
people.
you go.
I mean, if you,
Exploitation.
if you think Christians, then they'll pass it around amongst themselves. You don't got to put a
Oh, yeah.
sign
That's
up.
like Mormons, like, just from Lori and Chad being Mormon, you know, I've witnessed with my own 2 eyes, just how because in Mormonism, the community they teach community, right? They're all about it. The wards, those are like parishes where I'm from, it's within the boundaries, and they send people to check on other people, other members, and then they're very
Spy on them.
yes, spy on them, tattle. You got the snitch, you got look at Melanie Gibbs. She's perfect for perfect example because she's like, I don't follow me. But let me tell you the gossip. That's exactly what she did. It's double speak and it's very misleading. It's so layered and veiled. Haha, pun intended. You
I'd
know,
like to know who all she's talked to for a psychiatrist too.
oh my
And
God.
all of them are on medication. I mean, not all of them,
They need to
but
be.
I have heard through only in these interviews that a great number of the sisters
Mhm.
are on antidepressants and Xanax and this and that. And Lord knows they need to be having to put up with all this. But it's ironic that the happiest people in the world should
Don't
have to
belong.
use so much antidepressants.
Right? Oh, so that goes into that whole you just reminded me of that, how the niece, Jessie of Jessie is the niece of Jodi, and she said in her interview that when she was doing the billing, like, Jodi's billing or whatever, she was billing the church is paying her, and the church is referring the people to her. So you see how that they rely on each other. And so the church is using people like Jodi, therapist, and but they're the bishop is basically saying, okay, you have a sexual addiction and you need to go to Jodi. And so the couple goes to Jodi, she separates them, men go with men, girls go with girls, ladies go with ladies, and then she infiltrates, and then she bills the church, but codes it as you can't okay, sexual addiction and what was the other thing? I'm trying to remember.
OCD.
So those aren't in the DSM-5. It's not in
Right,
the
right.
DSM-5. So you can't
So
insurance
so
companies
the
won't
church
pay.
only but the church only approves of people who will say that. Like if you're a psychiatrist, you go, well,
Exactly.
heck, that's not even something we even have
Cahoots.
a do.
Right. They rely upon each other to commit fraud because they're billing the insurance companies not for sexual addiction. They're billing it for depression and anxiety and things like that, and so that they can get
Oh,
paid. Do you see? That is a freaking
yes.
crime.
Yeah, it is. It's
And
sort of like Medicare crime, only it's like another kind of crime like that.
yeah, from a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
It's just coding
The
it
way
different
is
whenever you do the billing.
that's it. And so that's what I gleaned from Adam Steed's interview, and then when I watched Jesse Hildebrandt's interview on Mormon Stories, and I was like, "This is so big," And I mean, here's Adam Steed, the whistleblower for the Boy Scouts of America, you know, and so they're trying to shut him up. I do think that the church purposely sent Jodi. They targeted him, in my opinion, because he was
Oh, yes.
whistleblowing, and
Kept
they
him
were
from
going to
taking the
shut him
test,
up. He
kept him
lost
from
his
going back to
wife.
school.
He lost his career. Yeah, they kicked him out of BYU. They he spent 14 days in jail. He was looking at all kinds of felony charges and just all this shit.
And
And I'm
apparently
like,
his
do
family
you
didn't
see?
back him up.
Well, why? Because they go, I believe in the church. It's the one true church, and it's so gross. and so you see the level of pettiness. The other day when I was talking to you and Trace and Mary, and we were talking about how I watched on Mormon Discussions, they had this one live stream um about oh crap, gaslighting. And I love you. Oh, okay. I'll go check it.
Check it.
Okay. All right. I love you. Be good. Be careful. Um, okay, so remind me what I was saying.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I know that I suck at this sometimes. Some days are better than others, but
Billing,
it
oh,
was
crap.
just oh, I was telling you and Trace the other day about oh crap. I gotta remember it. Damn. Oh, so Mormon Discussions, and it was on gaslighting, and they showed one speech from long ago. I forget who the speaker was in the church. Um, and then they showed a newer version of it or a different version of it where that the church had posted, right? So what happened was they played both of them side by side, and they obviously it apparently looks like the church went and altered the speech. And I am just like, "What? That is so petty, but so significant as far as, like, how far a person will go to save face, to say, "No, we didn't say that. That's gaslighting. You're crazy. You're going crazy. We didn't say that. You don't get your own planet." I mean, it's so the level of of manipulation is telling to me. That tells everything I need to know about a person's character, you know? And when you see this as this highly influential, it's such a powerful corporation, and that intimidates a lot of people into shutting up, and it works, and it has worked, and hopefully people are waking up, and it seems like Adam Steed has, and I mean, they're my heroes. I look at them like Jesse and Adam Steed are just very I'm so glad that they came forward with their stories. And I don't know if any practicing Mormons that are here or run across this in the future, if or ex-Mormons, anybody who's been in the religion, I don't know if you realize how valuable your story is, because and you may not see it that way, but I do. I find a lot of pieces to this puzzle through your stories, and that's how I've been able to put what I have together. Tom Phillips, Hans Mattson, and Brigitte Mattson, their stories about seeing Christ in the church, and it helps me to put things together. You have to do a lot of research. It's not just out there, conveniently. But we are in the age of the internet, and it's getting harder and harder. I just don't want people to be used and exploited. I don't. I just want them to know, you know, the organization, John, crap, what's his name? John from Mormon Stories podcast. What's his last name? Damn, Delenn. Jeez, you know, it's about consent, like just being upfront, letting me know what I'm in, what I'm signed up to. Not just, it's like somebody saying, "Hey, I'm starting this club and we're going to be doing this." Well, I expect that we're going to be doing exactly what they said this was. But if they're doing something totally opposite, then I don't wanna be a part of that club. I wanna be able to have that say so. And that's all I'm saying. It's just to where upfront, it's transparent, and you're not fooling people. That's bothersome to me. And from a Christian standpoint, from, I believe in a higher power. I just do. And to each their own, I don't push mine on you, don't push yours on me, and we're good, just try to be the best people, that we can in between that, or regardless of that. But, um, I forgot where I was going. It's not a good day for me. Um, yeah, Kelly, it's not just my state, Sharice. They own mineral rights all over the world. That's crazy, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. You saw an interview, um, I saw an interview, the Ruby and hubby was in the Mormon swingers group. That's a sick group in the name of God. And so that brings me to, and so that's allegedly. We're just gonna say allegedly on that. Yeah, that's how you gotta protect yourself legally. Um, but that investigator that I talked to, that's been working the Hamblin case for 22 years, he was like, "Look, I'm not gonna know everything about the Vallow-Daybell case," and I was like, "Look, I don't know everything about the Hamlin-Levitt, I don't know everything about that, but you do, and I do, and so together we can just throw things at each other and just kinda see how they crisscross." And so when he told me, he was like, "It's just so interesting that Chad was from Provo and then Springville," and he calls these other people that like a cult within a cult, however you want to label it. He calls it the Church of Satan. So I don't know if there is a legit Church of Satan, but it's not that one. It's just whatever this is, that's going on within the members of the church, active members in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, and so I'm just, trying to see it from that lens, uh, instead of just dubbing the entire thing evil or sadistic or whatever. It's like just trying to keep my mind open and not be so closed-minded. I don't want to ever
And
be closed-minded.
and 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 if you're in that religion and something's like that, don't you want them to be like exposed and got out so they're not like, you know,
Infiltrating.
and maybe trying to fool with one of your kids or something?
Or your grandchildren or you. I mean, there's a couple people in here right now that, or have been, I don't wanna name y'all, but, you know, that have said that they've been silenced. It it's more common than we want to really come to terms with. It's uncomfortable for us to say or to really wrap our heads around that these things do occur, that child abuse does occur, that child murder is occurring, that there's it's weird. It's and they go under the guise of putting on this front, and they're all clean and white and proper and educated and um but that feeds into this whole competitiveness, that seems to be at play in my opinion. That's just my observations, is just that there's this element of competition. And the wife is expected to stay at home and raise the kids, and the dad is expected to do what he does, and just he's the leader of the family, he's the patriarch, and And so you have these women, and I believe the Mormon church, the religion, they're really into everybody writing in their diary, writing in their journals. And that turned into the internet age. And then so it kind of, people started making blogs, and there's a lot of blogs out there. There's a lot of forums also. And there's a lot of Mormons that are on these sites. And then that turned into what Ruby Franke, with her YouTube channel. That's what I think. Um, and so, but then there's the level of competition, and then you're being exploited by your leaders in your church And so it's nothing for you to exploit your children. Do you see what I'm saying? How that goes? How easy it is for, I mean, they're doing what they're taught. um, yeah, because it's being done to them, and they were born into this, and so they don't know anything outside of said religion, and that's a problem. Or it needs to but I mean, the church would have to say, "Oh, we acknowledge this, and ooh, we need to adjust," but you're not getting that here. That's the problem. So you can change your policies, your procedures, you can do all that on paper, but if you're not showing it by example, if you're not leading by example, then we're done here, That means you're not willing to find fault in yourself and say, maybe I can try and be better and not be such an asshole and manipulate people, and that's how I see it. But whatever. It is Martian planet art. It's coming to the light. Yep. And I mean, I don't want to see anybody suffer. I don't want any more of these stories. I don't. It's disheartening. But on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, it really does tell the story of Tylee, Charles, Tammy, JJ, and Joe, who were silenced and continue to be because of people who say, and they defend instead. They defend the corporation instead of saying, you know what, maybe so. Maybe I need to hold my church leaders accountable. Just like you do in your politicians. I just want people to be responsible, fully responsible for what they put out. Okay. And if people just did that right there, then that would cut out a lot of things. But it's like they don't think they're doing anything wrong. And that's crazy to me. That to me is crazy. That's scary. So, yes, and that's how I see it too. The abuse is insane mentally the most. I guess I just had a different soul. No. It was through Jesse's interview, Hildebrandt, um, who is the niece of Jodi. She was told day after, if you tell a kid that they're stupid every day of their life, they're going to think they're stupid. They're going to say that they're stupid. I mean, that's what that is, And so when Jodi would tell Jesse that everything was her fault, that they had to do brain surgery on her brain to get the evil out, to cut the evil out, to get the devil out. Okay? That sounds Julie Rowe, don't it? Okay. And then there's so many connectors in this. It's nuts. It's been blowing my mind, y'all. I've got notes and notes and pages of notes, and um it's just so it's I don't know. I don't know. I get a little skittish, um whenever I go to share, let's say like on this Sunday I set out to connect all the dots, but then I see a comment, and it's like, well, why are you showing clips, or why are you doing this? And then I start doubting myself, and I start getting like not so confident, and that's on me, so it's a challenge, because you don't want to say, hey, I think that you're in an organization that's very, very unhealthy, and I don't want to be that person, I don't want to say that what I'm seeing is the right way, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just very, again, do what you do. I'm just looking for answers. I'm looking for the pieces that nobody has said. Nobody has come right out and said, hey, we're accountable. We were there that night that JJ got murdered. Or, you know what I mean? Everybody's so evasive and they omit things. They conveniently forget every damn thing around those certain times, but then they want to preach at you. And you're like, what? I think you're messed up. Like it's very it pisses me off. It's just, and so I can't lump everybody in with Melanie Gibb and David Warwick and Zalima and all these people. But also people can't just assume that when you're talking about, things that are, when you're analyzing, when you're analyzing the church and how it operates, they take it as you're attacking. And that is, I can't help how one reacts to it. That's the only thing I have control over is how I react to things, right? I mean, I really think that's the only control I have is how I respond. But so it's really hard to kind of talk about the difficult things with people who are so defensive. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't want to be judgmental, or it's such a tough, it's a tough road to hoe. But
So,
anyways,
Krisha,
yeah.
we've been on for a while
Mhm.
now, and sometimes your audio is pretty good. I noticed, but it's a little bit of it's got a little rougher in the last little bit. So I didn't want you to, because you're doing so good, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But what I was going to say is that we probably need to like go ahead and just tell them what we're going to do next with Sunday and tie it up since
Yeah.
I yeah, because you're doing so good, and you're gonna have to go back and listen to it and rewrite.
I
It's
know, I'm
you're
on my
doing
phone and it does like a underwater sound.
but
It does.
it's not too it's a little bit, but not too bad. But anyways, what I was gonna say, uh-oh, I've kicked her
Uh-oh.
out. No, I didn't kick her out. Is it is really, really good to see how I mean, it's terrible to have a terrible situation and feel good about any part of it. It doesn't seem right, but it's good for the pieces to be like sort of, I mean, anybody can see how these pieces are kind of fitting together, not just without going through all the rigmarole of the stuff that we have surged through. And I mean,
That's what
I think
exactly.
it only helps that we know the stuff we know at this point so that they can't pull too much of their secret talk on us because we know what they're talking about. But,
That's it. That's perfectly said. The way you said, yes, just so we can be aware, right?
yes,
Because that was one of my big things was I feel like they're saying because they talk in parables, and so you're like what? Um, and it's that Mormonology. Anyways,
we
I
still
think
have
so
to.
too. Yeah, Kelly. So we can either do a live stream Sunday on the connections because it really goes into this other theory and about it incorporates that field that Lauren went and looked at while she was in Rexburg, by Chad Daybell's house, where the
Right.
pings were for Alex's phone.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
incorporates
Absolutely.
that into a theory that I'm kind of building, but or and I still need to get with DJ Norman and do but I don't know if we should do it live or what. I don't know how to do it or when to do it or which one to do first, but his with the dates on the ritual killings and everything, I mean, that's fascinating and I want to know more about that. And I know there's people that also want to know more about that.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
just haven't touched base with him.
tomorrow would be a good day to talk to him because it's the anniversary of one of the kids' deaths.
Oh
You know,
yeah, that really would be.
so and or you can wait and anyway, there is so much that we do need to like go into and dive into and all that. And also, Trace there's a case out in Arizona that Tracy has been really following close. And I have a suspicious death here in Mississippi that I want to talk about again sometime. And so maybe Sunday we can take out a little bit of time to catch up on Jarrett. Uh, what is Jarrett's last name?
Jarrett Brooks.
Jarrett Brooks.
Mhm.
And also Bubba Leonard that is in here in Mississippi, that
Yeah,
his
that's a
death
crazy
is
story.
being investigated. So
18 years old.
yes.
Very, very, very curious circumstances for sure. But here's a flyer for 16-year-old Jarrett Brooks, who's missing still in Arizona. Another Mormon family, of course. And so anyways, yeah, but maybe we can do that. And look, there's Ruby with her exploitative hiney,
Yeah,
I
for
just
sure.
want to expose the Mormon corruption. That's, I think, at the heart of this, really. But yeah, I agree, and I appreciate y'all being here. And I, soon we'll hopefully know more about Ruby and Jodi, and keep their asses behind bars
In
and away
jail.
from children.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Rachel Carter says a great interview from Surviving the Survivor with LDS gentleman regarding the porn addiction that he said he was going into on Mormon Stories. Okay, so that's the one that was on Hidden True
Okay,
Crime.
good.
That's Adam
We'll
Steve.
catch him too.
All right, so
Yeah.
y'all go watch all these interviews, yes, and we'll reconvene. Oh, thank you, Yaya. All right,
All
guys.
right. See you later.
And if there are any of you who have been victimized by the church, who have silenced you, please reach out to me. Kresha, Kresha. I think I have it back here. Kresha0123 at G.
Well, fiddle. She lost her thing
I don't
there.
mind. I'd love to use my platform to, uh, to elevate your voices. I'll do anything like that. I'm looking for it back here, but I can't see it. Anyways, it's Kresha0123 at gmail.com. And anyways, I look forward to that. Donna, thank you so much. Trace, thank you.
Oh,
And Beach Bum too. And we'll see you guys. Okay, good.
and
Email me.
all right then.
All right, we'll
We'll see
see
y'all
you
later.
next time.
Later.
Justice for Tylee,
Bye.
Charles, Tammy, JJ, and Joe. Love always wins.